I just wish more people kind of knew, like, hey, it doesn't have to be overly complicated. It doesn't have to be, this arduous thing that you can't make time for. And then the benefits start to snowball, right? And it has this positive impact on every other area of your life, business, kids, whatever else it is that's important to you.
Wes Barefoot, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Rick, how's it going, man? Good to see you.
Good, man. I feel like I just saw you. I was just on your podcast the other day.
Yeah, we just dropped that episode last week, or at least the time you and I are recording this, that episode just came out last week. So got to celebrate you guys eclipsing 300 licenses with Alloy, man, which is a massive milestone. So congrats again on that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and this year's off to a great start. So we're certainly, we have a tiger by the tail, but I'm enjoying the heck out of it. But the reason that I wanted to have you on here was not to talk about franchising, right? Well, the first reason I want to have you on is to tell a dad joke. So there's no way with 3 little ones that you don't have it. I mean, you're literally a walking dad joke. So what you got for me?
Yeah, I got a few. Are you okay if we get a little dirty with one?
I mean, look, let it fly. It's your business.
All right, here's my dad joke. All right, what is brown and sticky?
Oh, God. I don't even. Oh, okay. What? I'll bite.
A stick.
That's
my youngest ones are 3 and 4, and so I gotta keep it clean because they're at that age where they will repeat absolutely anything. My son had his first t-ball game of the spring yesterday, and I'm coaching, and so anyways, we wrap up the, I'll say, game with air quotes. It was more like just herding cats out there, but anyways, we're packing everything up, getting ready to walk off the field, and I look over at him, and he's like wrestling with the button on his baseball pants and trying to like pull his pants down to just take a whiz right out there in the middle of the field. I mean, there's
grass everywhere. There. What else are you gonna do? You don't run to a building.
He's like, Dad, you let me pee in the yard at home. I'm like, yeah, but no one can see us in the yard at home. You can't just drop your pants. And so anyways, he's 4. He's at that age where potty jokes are the funniest thing in the world. So I gotta watch it. Otherwise he's gonna show up to his Presbyterian church preschool saying all types of inappropriate stuff.
But to pull you aside for a parent-teacher conference.
Yeah.
Those are always fun. I had a few of those.
That's what I dread.
Well, look, you and I are always talking about reading books. So and I like science in general. So I'm reading a really interesting book about gravity right now.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I can't put it down. Oh, my God. Some days this is going to run its course. I can't stop now. I can't stop, Wes. I get on founders calls.
They're kind of
and
addictive.
People bring dad jokes to founders calls, and then they come to training, and they've got 4 or 5 dad jokes on deck. I'm like, I can't stop. We can't stop it. It's too late.
You guys have created quite the culture there at Alloy. You on one extreme, everyone's telling dad jokes. On the other one, people are getting your logo tattooed on them forever. So
that's right. It's just an extension of the same thing. Starts with dad jokes, and then before you know it, you're in a cult, and you're getting your forehead tatted.
Well, I'm just waiting for someone to get your face tattooed on them like they do with Joe Rogan and do the reveal video where they wipe the soap off to reveal the Rick Mayo portrait on the
I don't. I really shoulder. No one's expressed any interest in that, shockingly. Huh. But if you're listening and you want to get my big melon on your body,
the idea out there.
I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
How's that? Well, look, man, I wanted to have you on because you're a friend, and I see you only twice a year. Because you are a franchise consultant with a company called FranChoice, and you have 2 conferences a year, and we get the majority of our leads from the consultant networks from FranChoice. You and I have done some really good deals together, good folks.
Yeah.
And so every time I see you, though, there's like a marked change in the way that you look aesthetically. And I'm always like, and it's subtle, but it's not, And so if I took the first time I met you to now, it'd be drastic. But of course, I see you every 6 months, and only seeing you every 6 months, I notice it. And to you, it's probably small movements in that needle. Yeah. But to me, I notice it. And so I always ask what you've been doing. And when you told me, I was really intrigued. So I wanted you to have on just to talk about that in general. And I want people to understand that Wes is a normal guy. And of course, I'm air quoting. He's actually really abnormal if you look at his habits and what he's able to accomplish. But, not only are you a entrepreneur with franchise, which people don't always understand, that's entrepreneur as well. You got to generate your own leads, work your own business. You guys are you and your wife are franchisees of a couple of concepts. So you are entrepreneurs there, which is not easy. And you also have three little ones. And so you and your wife are both working and entrepreneurial with multiple businesses, three little kids. And through that, you keep improving your health, which is typically not what we would see, which makes it even more impressive. So because you have, and when you laid out your strategies, I was like, yes, because that's something that Alloy would also recommend.
Right in line with what you
right
guys
in line. And you're like always shocked, like, I can't believe this works. It's so easy,
Yeah.
So I want to start with before you had that light bulb come on. I know you've always exercised. You've always been a health conscious guy. Maybe it wasn't getting you the results you wanted. What were you doing before you flipped the switch? Then we'll talk about flipping that switch, what changed, and then we'll talk about your current, exercise routine. So let's start with what you thought would work and maybe what you used to do.
Yeah. So I appreciate the opportunity, because I love this topic now, and it's something that I'm passionate about, because like you said, for me, and I'll get into it in just a minute, but I was trying all different types of things before, and then I actually went out and got some help, hired a trainer, some guidance, and now the results are showing. And I just wish more people kind of knew, like, hey, it doesn't have to be overly complicated. It doesn't have to be, this arduous thing that you can't make time for. And then the benefits start to snowball, right? And it has this positive impact on every other area of your life, business, kids, whatever else it is that's important to you. But so anyways, and I appreciate the compliments, looking better every time you see it. That's kind of easy when you were as soft as I was when you and I first met. It's not all that difficult to look at least slightly better every 6 months. But yeah, man, I mean, I would say I've always been pretty health conscious, but there was a period of time, probably like my 20s, where I really wasn't focused on it. Up through like college, I didn't really have to like try to stay in pretty good shape. And then age started catching up with me, right? My metabolism slowed down, couldn't eat whatever I wanted, couldn't go out and drink a case of beer on the weekends without, feeling it and it showing. So get into my early 30s, which is when we, started having kids. And that's when I was just like, man, I gotta change something. Like I can see where this is going, right? If I don't change anything, and I don't like where this is going. So on my own, and with some friends for years, that's when kind of early 30s I got serious about getting back into fitness and getting myself in shape. But I didn't have any real guidance. I would work out on my own. I had, a group of other guys that were dads in the neighborhood we used to live in, where one of them had kind of a garage gym. So we'd get up at, 5 o'clock in the morning, a few days a week, and work out. And we would just like rotate who brought the workout for the day to the table. And so, we were finding like workouts online, and one of the guys used to be big into CrossFit. So, he would bring like the CrossFit workouts of the day and things like that. And most of what we were doing was high intensity stuff, right? Which in my mind is like, hey, the goal is to lose fat, right? Like when I met you, 4 years ago or so, I was probably 225 to 230, and I'm right at 6 foot, so that's like heavy for a guy my size. And so naturally I'm like, hey, if I could lose 30 pounds, that would be kind of about where I want to be from a weight standpoint. So, in my mind, it was like, hey, high intensity, right? Get your heart rate up, cardio, that's how you're going to lose fat. And, so spent several years of doing that, working my tail off, right? Like you'd finish some of these workouts and just be absolutely gassed, sweating like crazy, heart rate up. I track with my Whoop strap and just be like, man, I crushed that workout, but the results weren't really happening. It was I kind of just felt like I was spinning my wheels. And so I think there were a couple things that were missing. One is the type of training I was doing was actually not the right type of training for the goals that I had, which, at the time were primarily fat loss goals. And I wasn't prioritizing nutrition. I paid attention to it, but again, I was totally winging it. I'm not a nutrition expert. I would go by, like I did the 75 hard challenge at one point. Intermittent fasting, tried, the carnivore diet, but it was all kind of like, short term phases that I went through. And, it might make a little bit of progress through intermittent fasting, but then you don't stay with it because it's pretty restrictive and difficult to just incorporate into your day-to-day life. So ultimately I got to the point where I was like, man, I'm putting in all this work and I'm not getting the results. Like clearly I'm not doing this right. So I decided, hey, I'm going to hire a trainer. And I started working with this company called Suprahuman. It's SUPRA, Suprahuman. And the guy that founded it is a guy named John Madsen, former NFL player, but he only played a couple years in the NFL. He was a backup player. Like he didn't get rich playing in the NFL. So he got into fitness afterwards. And his company, Superhuman, is primarily focused on working with mostly men that are entrepreneurs and just kind of high performers in the business world, but are also busy as hell and don't have 30 hours a week to spend in the gym. Right. And so, and it's an online program. So like, I don't meet with my trainer in person. My trainer's actually out of the UK. His name's Ryan Stevens. He's a freaking beast. Shout out Ryan. But the program is largely focused on nutrition. And then what I would describe as just kind of general progressive strength training, right? And it's those two things. I've been working with them for a little over 2 years. I think I was just over 230 pounds when I started working with them, and I'm about 190 right now. I got down as low
40
as like
pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I got down as low as like 185, and then we started going into like more of a muscle building phase, right? So actually trying to
increasing your calories and
increasing my calories, even increasing protein a little bit, and then really pushing myself with the strength training. And then now, we're like, what, middle of March when we record this, we're going to go through kind of another fat loss phase going into summer to kind of, strip another layer of fat off, but with more muscle underneath it this time. And so anyways, we can unpack some of this, but like for me, the big difference has been having some guidance from someone that actually knows what the hell they're talking about. On the nutrition side of things, it's not that complicated, right? It's a calorie target and a protein target to hit every day, right? And then my trainer kind of pulls the levers, right? Based on, I have like a weekly check-in process with him where, I have a check-in form that I fill out. I send in some pictures every week so he can kind of look at, my physique and stuff like that. And then based on that, he's pulling the levers, right? So we're adjusting calorie intake, and protein's pretty much the same. It's usually we target like 200 grams of protein a day.
Right. Right around your total body weight.
Yeah. So it's really just, manipulating the calorie intake. And so like, I think there was a couple of months where it was pretty rough. Like when I was really trying to drop some fat, where we got as low as like 12 or 1300 calories a day and still trying to get 200 grams of protein a day. So that's like eat a chicken breast, eat a ribeye, and that's kind of it. But I mean, that was like 2 months out of the last 2 years. The rest of it has been, honestly, man, pretty easy to incorporate into my lifestyle. Like I'm not super restricted on what I can eat. I'm just more conscious about the decisions that I make. I'm prioritizing protein. And when you do that, you're actually not hungry as often, and you don't even really have the appetite for, like the empty carbs and calories, the snack type food. And so the big adjustment in the beginning from a nutrition standpoint was just getting used to tracking everything. So I track and log everything that I eat, but now it's second nature, right? And I can usually just kind of sit down at the end of the day and log everything that I ate that day, because I'm just so used to kind of paying attention to what I'm eating, the quantity I'm eating, and things like that. But anyways, probably rambled on way too much there, but
no, I mean, look, I had a talking points and you kind of just sequentially went right through them. So what I want people to hear, and of course, is this self-serving? Sure. But it's also not. This is if someone listens to this, or if you're a potential Alloy franchisee or a franchisee or client, this is the Alloy prescription, which is so interesting. Yeah. So, when you mentioned early on, you were doing essentially HIT training. And if you look at a lot, and I don't want to throw shade at other fitness concepts necessarily.
There's a lot of HIT stuff out there, though. Like
there's a lot of class-based concepts, and the goal is to burn as many calories as you can while you exercise. And that's how you quantify it. But if you look at modern science, now this is stuff we've known empirically, Wes, for years, because we've been doing this for 33 years. But I think finally science is catching up. So if you listen to Dr. Peter Attia, he's got a great book called Outlive, right? And it's for people like 40-ish and up, Huberman, all these nerds on the internet. They're basically going to say modern prescription is strength training first, because you're losing muscle from age 30. You're losing a percentage of muscle every year. Sarcopenia, right? So you stave that off, because that's a huge predictor of your longevity is your strength. Certainly aesthetically, it helps the way you look, and it also helps with keeping your body fat under control and your blood sugar and all the things, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, okay, what about, I'm air quoting, like, what about cardio? It's like, well, Peter Attia described it brilliantly, and we've talked about this offline, which is zones 1 through 5, right? 1 would be you're pretty much not doing anything. 2 is you're winded, kinda, but you could do it forever, right? Yeah. And so I think for you would be like rucking, you put a heavy pack on, go for a walk. Yeah. It's like, you're really just going for a walk. You're just adding some resistance because you're a relatively fit and strong guy. Check. But for most of our clients at Alloy, it would just be brisk walking. Most people can do that, right? Even if you're injured or got a bad hip or knee or whatever. And then that would be zone 2. So you want plenty of time in zone 2. And then you want every now and then zone 5. And zone 5 is something you could not do for more than about 3 minutes. So we do like a metabolic finisher that takes like 3 minutes or 5 minutes, at the end of a workout at Alloy. And so like we're handling both the strength and the high heart rate. And then all we have to do is get people to move more outside the gym, go for some walks. And then to your point, okay, what about nutrition? It's like, if we can just get you in a calorie range that makes sense and you focus on a protein goal, to your point, your satiety goes way up, right?
Yes.
And then I find myself sometimes at night, Wes, case in point, like, hey, I want some ice cream. I just have a weird, like, hey, I'm sitting around, like, I'll have a bowl of ice cream. And then I'll remember, I'm like, oh, I can't. I've got to have this protein shake first because I'm trying to hit a protein goal. That's my only goal.
And then you're not.
I don't even do calories. Yeah. Then I drink a protein shake. It don't taste like ice cream. Exactly. But I can tell you afterwards, I don't want any ice cream. I'm like, never mind. And so by default.
And then you realize you're like, man, I made the right decision. And that builds some confidence or just, adds momentum to it. I'll tell you, I've kind of lost a lot of the desire I used to have for snack food, chips and things like that. I have a little bit of a sweet tooth and I've learned that for me, Greek yogurt with some blueberries and a little bit of raw honey over it. Mm-hmm. That's as good of a freaking dessert as almost anything else, but you buy the right type of Greek yogurt, it's 200 calories and 30 grams of protein, right? So that's a lot of times what I'll do, in the evenings to kind of satisfy whatever little sweet tooth I have going. And, that usually gets me well over my protein target for the day.
Right.
So
and those are so readily available. So readily available. And look, our customer avatar is essentially you. When you were just, when we went to franchising, it's real important that you nail your avatar, right? Because that goes into real estate choices and, and then it goes into all the creative around your digital ads and your messaging and your branding and all the thing has to do with who's my customer? Let's speak to that person. And so when you look at the archetype, there's I don't know if you've ever seen the character wheel of archetypes, right? And so our main archetype that we attract, not necessarily male or female, would be described as a mover shaker, which would be like you and your wife, smarter than the average bear. You're entrepreneurs, you're hustling, you've got a lot on the ball. It's like mover shakers are who we target, right? And so you take someone like that who's probably already making some attempts to exercise because they understand it's good for them and they can be a better dad. Stagnant. Yeah. So it's like, okay, this isn't about, if you're not exercising at all and you want to go and do a class-based concept, is that going to be better than sitting on the couch? 100%. But if you're saying I'm going to start exercising, I want to maximize my time, what should I do? Then it becomes about, all right, well, then let's lay it out. Strength first, move more at a zone 2, so go walk or whatever. Every now and then get your heart rate really high. And you can then stay out of what Peter Attia would affectionately describe as the garbage zone, which is what happens when you do hit training, because you're not going hard enough to get your VO2 max increase that you could, because you can't last long enough to go 45-minute class, if you will. But you're also not at the lower heart rate that's really good for your heart health. You're kind of in this no man's land. And in a derogatory term, he calls it the garbage zone. I would say it's better than nothing, but if you're going to spend time, the prescription is strength, zone 2, every now and then zone 5. That's it.
Yeah. Don't you start burning muscle before you burn fat if you get into too much of that higher heart rate too? I think
not necessarily. That's a bit of a myth. It's a bit of an overstatement. I think it's more about, you certainly burn more of your energy, your sugar, if you will, right? Your stored muscle or your stored energy in your muscles, which can be somewhat detrimental towards having a good strength training workout the next day,
right?
Whatever that may be. But you're also, what happens when you are sort of disrupting your blood sugar and you're also working really hard, right? You're going to have an elevated cortisol level, which that kind of environment, if you're already like a stressed entrepreneur like you with little kids and you may not, like you said, the power went out last night, you didn't get a bunch of sleep, kids are in the bed. So why would you go smash your body into bits the next morning thinking I'm doing good when in fact you could be raising your cortisol levels even more, which makes it really hard to lose weight or to get any fitness benefit, right? And I think
that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're looking at the overall ecosystem as opposed to like in its isolation, what does this workout do? It's more like, what does the whole ecosystem look like? Am I getting the strength training? Am I moving more? Am I eating my protein? So, I mean, it's really simple. You put it together, like strength, walk, heart rate high every now and then, eat more protein. I mean, I know that sounds like a drastic oversimplification, but that's exactly what really you're doing.
This whole last 2 years of working with this trainer, it's blown my mind how simple it is to get the results, right? And like there were some mindset shifts that I had to make, in learning all of this, and one of which was kind of what we were just talking about, right? Because with these HIIT workouts, you go and you absolutely demolish yourself. You're like laying on the ground for 10 minutes afterwards, just trying to catch your breath and
right.
Get the
and you think you've done something.
Stand up. Yeah, and you think you've done all this good, right? But like one thing I've noticed is like my appetite was off the charts, in the couple hours following, that type of workout. And it's crazy because like I wear this Whoop strap to track output and calories burned and stuff. And from a cardio standpoint, my trainer just recommends walk 30 minutes a day to 60 minutes a day, kind of depending on like what our targets are, at that point in the program. But that blew my mind in the beginning. I'm like, really? Walking? Like, I'm going to go for a walk.
What am I, 100 years old?
Yeah. What is that going to do? Right. But when you look at,
you'll be going to the mall pretty soon with your Velcroed shoes, walking around the mall.
Right. Yeah. I got my New Balances strapped on, ready to go, jotting down some good dad jokes as I'm walking. You can burn just about as many calories walking for 30 minutes as you could like jumping on the Peloton and doing like a 30-minute Peloton class. So like, you're not even burning that many more calories, if any more, by doing it. And the other thing was like these strength training workouts. I mean, I've got a decent little home gym set up, and for me, that's a lot easier with kids' schedules and stuff. It's easy to be able to work out at home, but it's nothing extravagant. The vast majority of what I'm doing is body weight, a lot of push-ups and things like that. And I have like a weighted vest that I'll put on for some of that type of stuff. Dumbbell and like I have TRX bands, and we use those for
it sounds like an alloy location, really. I mean, all of our equipment is just toys, right?
Crazy equipment or crazy setup. And I do try to get on my Peloton like once a week. I mean, lately it's been maybe twice a month to do some of the higher intensity. And the way my trainers explain that to me is like, you go and get your heart rate way up doing some cardio like that. It's not going to really help with fat loss if that's the goal, but it is good for your cardiovascular system.
I mean, it's a good predictor of longevity and health. Is your metabolic health is your VO2 max, and you can only get that by training that upper limit. So again, every workout isn't necessarily in isolation going to help you lose weight. And I think if you do what you do, Wes, which is you're like, you had to break your paradigm of what you thought was right. You zoom out and you think about, what is this workout doing for the overall environment of my life? Like, okay, so I'm going to get stronger in this workout, and weight training is going to shape my body in a way that I want, and it's going to help me with blood sugar, clearing blood sugar, and it releases these molecules that go to your brain. They call them happy molecules. There's all these really cool things happening systemically, but it's not about like, how many calories did I burn during this workout, right? And then, like to your point, you go out and walk. It's not difficult. It typically doesn't beat you up. Most people can do it. If they can't, they can just take an easy ride on an indoor bike and watch TV, whatever that one, if it's inclement weather, whatever that is. Every now and then, again, twice a month, you're getting your heart rate up high, but it's still enough. And I just think for most people, it's really hard for them to understand when our culture has been get in there and just destroy yourself, and there can't be any other way. And it just doesn't need to be that way. And I think if people understood that, more people would adhere to a program, because it wouldn't be the worst thing they've ever done. Like, they wouldn't feel like, ugh, so hard, I don't want to do it. It's like, it's not hard. You can make it really pleasant. It doesn't have to be that difficult. You can work out at home with dumbbells. I mean, the reason Alloy exists is because people need accountability, and we make sure they do the exercises right. Your coach online, that's amazing. Like, there's a bunch of those out there too. And there's, like yours, some really good ones, and they're right on point with what we're going to say. Right. And so it's just encouraging to see that that's starting to catch on, because it's something that we've known all along. And man, you look fantastic. So 40 pounds down with everything you have going on. And to hear you say, like, you know what, dude, it's not even that hard. I think a lot of that would surprise a lot of people.
It's the first thing I've found that's been sustainable and something that I can incorporate into my life. And it's, to your point, the accountability has been huge for me, right? Like, having this coach. And I would like to say, for the record and for the audience listening, there is not an Alloy location in my area. I would be a member.
Dude, don't worry about it. And, it's like, we're all trying to get there in our way.
I got to find you a good person in this area to bring Alloy to coastal North Carolina.
There you
go. But no, it's the accountability piece is big, but I think it's also like having someone behind the scenes kind of pulling the levers that knows what they're doing, right? Because, like, even when we were in the first, like, say 6 months of me working with this trainer, and the goal was just, lose fat, there were some counterintuitive things that he did that I wouldn't have known to do, right? Like, there were times where he brought my calories back up for a week or two so that my metabolism wouldn't get used to the lower calorie intake, right? And he kind of explained to me why we're doing that. And I've also seen, because look, there were other times where I was able to drop, say, 20 pounds or something. Like, I did the 75 hard thing and just through brunt force, miserable 75 days, definitely not sustainable. But I dropped like 20 pounds, but I wasn't putting on the muscle the way that I am now. So my physique wasn't really changing. I was just kind of like skinny fat, and then it all came back pretty quick. So, like, it's been cool to see my physique actually change, like, my facial structure, and I naturally have chubby cheeks, so I still have some work to do to get the chiseled jawline.
What do you do for your face? You got face exercises?
I don't know. I try to laugh a lot.
Lots of frowning and laughing.
Yeah,
I'm so sad. I'm so happy.
Laugh and smile a lot, but
that's right. That's easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been cool, like, because the types of people that you have coaching and training at Alloy. A guy like my trainer, they know what they're doing, and they know, because it's not going to be just a straight line, anyone's fitness journey. There's going to be adjustments that need to be made.
Life happens too.
Progress.
Like, maybe you have an extra kid. Like, all right, I got to power down for a second while I'm helping my wife get up in the middle of the night with the baby. It's like, oh no, man, life happens. But one thing I want to say is, because this is like me, a guy talking to another guy, and it would be easy maybe if you were female to listen to this and be like, well, it's easy for you guys, but when you get over 40, your hormones change, and there's some truth to all that. I mean, sure, that's a whole nother thing that you could look at that would help.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that the prescription holds no matter who you are. If you listen to any modern science about, especially for women, they even lean on strength even harder, and they are even less intrigued by HIIT-based cortisol driving cardio. I think it's even more detrimental. It can be for females. And again, if you're not doing anything, have at it. But if you really want to know how to maximize your time and you want to look good, which is most people do. They want to look and feel good, right? That's our brand promise: looking good, feeling great, living life to the fullest. It's like, all right, if you want that, do these things. So I don't want people to hear this and think, oh, these guys are broing out. It's not for females. Oh no, it's for females too. And so, look, man, you keep improving every time I see you. I'm so impressed. But let's wrap it up there. I just wanted to confirm, like, here's a guy who's lost 40 pounds. He's busy as anybody I know, and he makes it sound really simple. And granted, you're wired right, but dude, it's not that complicated. And I really appreciate you sharing your story.
The key is just stay consistent with it, right? And you're not going to be perfect. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? So if you start a program, working with a trainer, you got to come into it knowing like, hey, it's win each day and stack the days. And if you're following the program that's been prescribed to you and it's the right type of program, right? And I'm the biggest believer of, what you guys are teaching at Alloy, because it's worked for me, and it's really the only thing, that's worked for me. And I've tried a lot of different stuff over the years. So it's, you're not going to see this amazing transformation overnight, but it can actually happen quicker than you think too. Like, I want to say within the first 3 months of me working with my trainer, I lost 20, maybe 25 pounds. Like, it can start happening pretty darn quick. And then, at least seeing improvements to the point where other people are going to start to notice. You're going to notice when you look in the mirror, you're going to feel more energy. And then that builds the momentum, right? Like, that gets you more and more fired up to keep going. But like, I've had plenty of days where, I was off on something, came down with the flu a couple weeks ago, didn't work out for 10 days, right? But it's just a matter of get back on the program and, kind of have a short memory when it comes to that stuff. And you're not going to be perfect, so don't strive for perfection. Just, 1% better each day, that type of mindset. But it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. I don't think age matters. Like this superhuman group that I'm a part of, they've got, a pretty good online community. They show a lot of before and after pictures of different members. And when I tell you there's guys in their mid 60s, that are starting, with this and, far more out of shape than I was. And you want to talk about epic transformations, like what I've done is nothing compared to what, I've seen some of the other folks in this group do. And
we were seeing it, man, in mass. If you look at Alloy, each location having all of these members.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Oh, dude, it's the best. I mean, it's my favorite thing that we do is the client testimonials. If you go to our YouTube page, we've got some that really pull on your heartstrings, but we got guys in their 70s that are built like they're in their 30s, and they're like, holding their grandkids. They go from seated on the ground with a grandkid on one hip and one on the other arm, and they stand up from the ground, and they're in their 70s with 2 grandkids hanging on them. It's like, that is not usual. And these folks didn't come to Alloy in super shape. Look, man, let's leave it at that. It's a simple prescription, essentially.
If I can do it, anybody can do it. That's the truth.
Yeah. Well, no, look, man, you're a stud. I appreciate it. And it's just motivational. Like, I see it every 6 months. So keep it on the good path, my friend. And I'm sure I'll see you, I don't know, maybe in a few months at another conference. And you'll be once you get like way more buff than me, I'm probably not want to be your friend anymore, but that's just me being petty. So we'll leave it at that.
I got a long way to go for that. That's why I'm secretly very envious of you. And that's why anytime I have someone come to the Alloy Discovery Day, I bribe them to walk up to you and say, I thought you would be bigger.
They all follow your directions, and I always laugh hysterically. And I'm like, that's right. I forgot you were working with Wes.
You're Wes's guy. Okay, I see.
All right, my friend. Well, look, keep up the good work. Man. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, always appreciate you.
Cheers.